Good morning, my darling baby friends. I call everybody baby because I'm getting older, So if you don't want to be baby, you can be my boo. No. Good morning and welcome, September 10th. Emotional day coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But so we begin Job today. What? And I have to give a little bit of confession here. I was really scared to start Job because conviction, there were a lot of chapters. There's 42 chapters, and I was like, whew, we've been going so speedily through Nehemiah and Esther and, Ezra, and those are quick, easy, short. But I was like, oh my goodness. Then I read a brief description of Job yesterday, and I would highly recommend this book. I'm covered in books. Know Your Bible. All 66 Bibles explained. Then, look at how it lays out. Use that. How it lays out each Bible. Each book. One per page. Pretty remarkable. So as I read this, I got really nervous about Job because it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be all about suffering, and I don't need to talk about I don't need to feel depressed. I want uplifting. I want Psalms. I want the resurrection. I want all the uplifting stuff. I don't want to hear about suffering. That's too close to home, maybe. Conviction. So, let's talk about Job. I've done research from different points. I love my Amplified Bible. This is a Joyce Meyer Amplified Bible, and my aunt gave it to me, who's such a woman of God and mentor to me. But before each chapter, it also gives you an outline like this. And then I looked up something online, which is the charts that I've told you about before. If you were interested in having one, just comment wherever the comment section shows up on YouTube in relation to this video. Let me know. I'll shoot it to you. Okay, so let's get started. Job. Now, if you also can read my handwriting, this is the kind of ways I like to begin it. So, author, date, overview, key themes, and key verses. And so if you want that, and gosh bless you if you can read my handwriting, but if you want that, again, comment. Hey, it makes a cross. Comment, and I'll send you a little snapshot of it. I'm messy. I ain't professional. I'm not typing this up. No. And I like writing because it helps me lock it in. So let's start. The author, of course, not of course, but the author is unknown. Here's interesting facts. So for the books of the Bible, they, up until this point, they've somewhat gone into chronological order. Genesis, it kept on going. Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob, and then Judges, then Kings, and Job took place around the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So somewhere between 2100 and 1900 BC. There's always a point to things. So, I don't know what that one is. Again, comment, let me know. So, quick overview. Job was a very wealthy, and they even quoted in the Bible, the greatest man of the East. And he lived in Uz, which a lot of scholars believes is somewhere in Arabia now, or back then near Canaan. And he was a righteous man. Blameless and upright, and a reverential fear of God. He had all these possessions. Now, I've heard different sayings, more money, more problems. I think that that's very true. Also, all money corrupts, right? All power corrupts, or absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the fact that this man remained upright in all of his blessings and prosperity that he knew were from God is a key element right there. And then here, a very disgusting, vile, fallen angel, Satan, approaches God. And what I like about it is God asks him, "Where are you from?" And Satan says, "I've been wandering to and fro and up and down the earth." It's interesting, right? It was interesting to me. Anyway, Satan, in my opinion, tries to manipulate God or test God. Thou shalt not test your God, but he tests God, and he said, and you know, God says, "Have you not seen my faithful one, Job?" And Satan says, he's only faithful to you because you give him everything. I mean, everyone's faithful during prosperity. Are you kidding me? Take away all those things, and he will renounce you to your face. So God, in his sovereignty, said, "Go forth. You may take away all of his possessions." And in other words, he's saying, we'll see. We'll see if you're right. And so Satan comes and he takes away all of his wealth and even his 10 children. And get this, all in one day. I mean, that's right up there with the suffering of Elizabeth Taylor, I'm telling you. So, my favorite part is said, but Job, or yet in spite of this, Job remained faithful. So, chapter 2 comes, and Satan approaches God again, and I can only imagine he's dismayed, and he's just icky feeling, because he's like, really? I'm going to get this. I'm going to get him. So Satan goes to God and he says, well, the reason he's still faithful to you is because he has great health. I mean, anybody who's in great health is going to remain faithful to you. That's easy. In other words, you know, it's easy to praise on the mountain. But what about what you do in the valley? And so God said, I give you permission to take away his health, but don't take away his life. So Satan, I just envision him, a little nasty, evil creature, just rubbing his hands and like, I like to do evil. I'm going to go take this man's health. And he does. And he takes away every part of his health to the point where he was deformed and disfigured beyond recognition. Yet, Job remained faithful. And here, dear friends, is the biggest thing I want to share with you today, because this verse is just something I'm going to write on index cards, and suffering is part of life. It's what we do and the choices that we make in the midst of that suffering is what's going to determine, our strength in God and future restoration. So, this is chapter 2, verse 10. His wife in chapter 9, seeing his disfigurement, I'm sure that she's ticked off they don't have any wealth anymore, and she didn't have her maid servants, and hubba. And she says to him, do you still hold fast your blameless uprightness? Renounce, I don't even like saying this out loud, renounce God and die. And here's the verse that I pray right now, really is scripted on your heart as much as God is just laying it on me. Chapter 2, verse 10. But he said to her, his wife who just told him to renounce God and die, he said to her, you speak as one of the impious and foolish women who would speak. What? ? What? Shall we accept only good at the hand of God? And shall we not accept also misfortune and what is of bad nature? In spite of all this, Job did not sin with his lips. So I'm going to read it quickly again. Chapter 2, verse 10, I'm starting at what he's saying. What? Shall we accept only good at the hand of God? And shall we not accept also misfortune and what is of bad nature? In spite of all this, Job did not sin with his lips. And then chapter 2 finishes out. Job has 3 friends that are coming from afar. And I'm very sorry about mispronouncing names. Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad. And they come to comfort him. And one of the interesting things as chapter 2 lines up is that when they saw his disfigurement, I mean, he was beyond recognition, they wept. And they sat with him 7 days, 7 nights, and said nothing. You know, my darlings, it is, sometimes we don't know what to say in grief. I had a conversation with my beloved in-laws a few weeks ago, and, you know, what do you say at funerals? And what, and a lot of people say, well, they're better off. And that, as Christian believers, we know that. But that might not be what I emotionally in my fleshiness need to hear at that moment. It might instruct anger in me. Why did you say that to me? I just lost someone I love. I want him around. And so it says here, sometimes the best thing to do for friends, family, strangers who are suffering is to be present. Don't say a word. Be present. And that's what they need. So we did chapter 1 and chapter 2 today. And the other point that, a little bit of the diagram. I flipped it so much today. My page is coming out, so I've got to, my OCDness, that will not do. So I'm going to have to figure out how to take that. Anyway, is this little diagram up at the top, which, everyone knows, all my darlings that have been with me for a little bit, know that I'm a visual learner. If you are, let me know. Again, I can send this to you. But I want you to take note of this about Job, and then we'll finish out. It's good to for me, it's easy to divide books for understanding. And so I really like how this pastor, and this is the one that I told you I will give you the link, broke it out. So first, in the first couple of chapters, what we just read, chapter 1 and 2, is called The Intro to Job's Suffering. The 2 times that Satan came, poverty and plagues, and so that's intro to Job's suffering. Chapter 3 through 31 is the discussion of his suffering. So what we're going to see in those chapters, don't worry, we will not do them all in one day. What we'll see in those chapters is first, the words of Job, his eyes on himself. Then we see the eyes of humanity, meaning, well, how does humanity take suffering? His 3 friends are going to say a lot of, from what I understand, not so great stuff to try to dissuade him. For over 25 chapters, they're trying to dissuade him to trust God and go by his own understanding. And as you know, I am not a biblical scholar, so please forgive me. And I should have looked this up before I was talking to you, but you look it up and you post it, or you probably know it. And I'm just so grateful for you. But lean not on your own understanding. And that, I think, is a huge key point, chapter 3 through chapter 31. So we have intro to suffering, discussion of suffering, and then chapter 37 through 41 is the correction in suffering. So here we see, now we're turning our eyes to God, and we also get the words of God. And then 4 is submit, or submission under suffering. As I've shared with many of you, it took me 34 years to finally know what full surrender is. I want that freedom for you. And then the last one is restoration from suffering. And we will see here that through all of this suffering, at the end, God restores everything to Job and more. Because Job held fast and clung to God and was patient in his suffering. Okay, so that was a mouthful. But like I said, we can come back and I can share this with you if you're interested. I do want to just round up on this. These are key themes that we're going to look out for, you and me. I'm just so blessed by you. Thank you. But you and me, we're going to look for these key themes. First one, God does allow pain only for good reasons. But he may never reveal those reasons. That's sovereignty. Number 2, instead of asking, where is God in all of our pain and suffering? We need to ask, where am I? Where is my heart in all my pain and suffering? Right? Are we trusting our Almighty Creator? Even though we can't understand what in the world is going on and why, are we trusting Him? That's huge. Number 3, suffering in life is unavoidable. This is a fallen world that we live in. Of course, suffering is going to come. And I had another thing that I read last week that was fantastic to me and really sunk with me. It's that Satan does not waste his time on endeavors that do not threaten him. What? Satan does not waste his time on things that do not threaten him. So if I'm feeling like I got all the world as my oyster and everything is jumping, that probably means that I'm not on the right path. And that Satan is not worried about pulling me away from God. Because I'm not there. I'm not with God. Abide in Him and He will abide in you. Like we talked about yesterday. Oh, thank you, Holy Spirit. This is not my knowledge. Guys, this is none of me. Need you to know that. So suffering is unavoidable in this fallen world, but our reactions and the choices we make in the midst of our great suffering is what determines moving forward. So here are 2 things to ask related to that. Will my relationship with God be enough when trials come? Will I trust Him and lean not on my own understanding? Big, big, big. So I want you to meditate on that today with me and share with me what God's speaking in your heart on these things. Share with me your experiences. Are you suffering now? Are you suffering now? I want to pray for you. You know, another thing someone told me once is some people will say like, oh, I'll pray for you. And they're like, oh, thank you. And they'll say, oh, it's the least I can do. Honey, child, love, darlings. Prayer is, why am I getting all like, forgive mine, but prayer is the absolute most we can do. Never cease in praying. All right, so the meditation is the key themes. I want you to, number 1, God does allow pain only for good reasons. However, he doesn't have to tell you what those reasons are. So all of us here scratching our head, why? I'm so victimization. Why, God? That's going to bring us to, in a moment, to number 3. Or excuse me, to the next point, number 2. Instead of asking where God is in our pain, why? Where are you? You need to ask where you are in your pain. Are you victimizing? Are you going inward? And I didn't deserve this. What did I do? Or you might even be like me and just be loathsome about yourself. I deserve everything that comes to me because of all the crap that I've done in my life and rebellion against God. And I deserve this, and I'm just going to, I have to take it. I mean, I deserve it. I'm disgusting. I'm horrible. I'm detestable. I deserve this. All of that is selfish. We're turning inward. We're wasting time and energy looking for a philosophical why. God's understanding is beyond all human understanding. Don't worry about it, but have faith that it's for the good of you and the good of his purpose through you. So instead of asking God where, you ask, where am I? Am I trusting him? Instead of going inward, I'm going upward. And then number 3, suffering, of course, is unavoidable. What matters is our response in the midst and the choices we make in the midst of our suffering. Will our relationship with God be enough? Or will we start leaning on human understanding? And will I again trust him and lean not on my own understanding or the world's fleshy, unknowing, lack of wisdom understanding? So you got those 3. Pray on them, meditate on them, whatever God is sharing, share it please with me. And I love you. And remember, I love you. I love you so much. But that really doesn't matter because God, the almighty creator of the heavens and earth, he loves you. He loves you. And he loves me. And I say that because I need to hear myself say that because I really struggle with it. Dear God, thank you for this awesome beginning of Job and just continuing to show me how wrong I am. I'm so grateful for that because, I've been asking you to remove vanity and pride and ego, and man, when I ask you to prune, you get out those clippers and it does hurt. But I have to remain upward, not inward. So God, thank you. I'm now seeing that Job is incremental and even in my life circumstances right now. And I hope and I pray for the life circumstances of these amazing people that are sharing this experience with me. I pray that it's going to speak to them as well. And they can share your wisdom through their words and experiences with me because I need so much. Apart from you, I am nothing. I love you so much, God. I love you. Amen. Have a wonderful day. It's Friday Eve. I wonder if I can have a really young, awesome tech person put little sparklers right there. It's Friday Eve. And yesterday I didn't even get to say hump day. Yeah, some of you might be younger and not know that, but that's my jam. Okay, enough fooling around. I love you. I will see you tomorrow, either live or watching at your own inconvenience. But remember, either way, please share with me. I want to grow and learn from you. I'm a messy girl. And let's just enjoy our messiness together. I love you. Toodles.